Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This is Yuri Rashkin, and you're watching my Rashkin Report Substack or Rashkin Report Perspectives channel on YouTube. Either way, welcome and thank you. Today, I want to talk plainly about something that keeps coming up in the news cycle: the idea that peace is getting closer, that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff suddenly appeared in Moscow because some kind of breakthrough is happening, and that Trump might be preparing to end the war. Let me say it clearly. Nothing of the sort is happening. The only thing moving toward peace right now is wishful thinking. What we're watching is not diplomacy, it's not strategy, it's not even negotiation. It is three different games happening at the same time. Let me explain. Trump is trying to save himself politically. A fractured Kremlin is trying to save itself economically. And Ukraine is trying to save itself as a nation. Everything else is theater, and Moscow is always knows how to put on a show. Let's start with the most absurd storyline that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff arrived in Moscow as peacemakers. They are not negotiating anything. Not because they're bad people, that's not even the point, but because they have nothing to offer that Putin wants. Putin wants one thing: Ukrainian capitulation, complete, irreversible public surrender. And Kushner cannot deliver that. Witkoff cannot deliver that. Not even Trump can deliver that. Only Ukraine can, and Ukraine won't. So if they're not there to negotiate peace, what are they doing? They're there to negotiate a picture, a narrative Trump can sell to his base. He needs to show movement. He needs to show a deal. He needs to something to distract from investigations, from economic pressure, from a presidency that is sliding into chaos. This isn't foreign policy. This is PR dressed up as a peace mission. Meanwhile, on the Russian side, we need to understand something Western media still struggles to articulate. There is no single Kremlin. There are at least two Kremlins. I call them the Tower of Blood, the people who need war to stay in power, and the Tower of Money, the people who want the war to end because it's destroying their wealth. When you hear about Russian peace plans, they almost always come from the Tower of Money. Business elites, people like Kirill Dmitriev, the ones whose cash flow is bleeding out. Their message is simple: we're losing everything. Let's end this war. Putin's message is also simple: I don't care. And that is why every so called peace plan from Moscow is dead on arrival. It never comes from the man who actually decides. But something important is happening, something the Kushner photo op cannot hide. Russia is burning. Not symbolically, literally. Oil depots, refineries, ports, tankers, military airfields. Ukraine is hitting Russia where it actually hurts: in the infrastructure, in the exports, in the only part of the Russian system the Kremlin cannot easily replace. A Russian conscript is easily replaceable, a refinery is not. Cannon fodder costs next to nothing. A tanker costs hundreds of millions. And here's the number that should worry every person in the Kremlin: Russia's oil profits are down 70% this year. Not because of sanctions, not because of climate policy, but because Ukraine is dismantling the machine that funds the war. You cannot wage a long war when the war becomes more expensive than the oil that pays for it. That reality is starting to sink in, not in Putin's head, but in the people around him who still care about money. Meanwhile, in the United States, Trump is operating inside a bubble that grows more isolated every week. He reads only his own social network. He watches only friendly media. He avoids public rallies. He surrounds himself with people who tell him exactly what he wants to hear. And in that bubble, prices are falling. Ukraine is a Biden project. Putin is a reasonable partner. Tariffs don't hurt American families. Diplomacy is a television storyline. Any deal is a victory if Trump can claim it. But the real world doesn't bend to that fantasy. Trump cannot end this war because the war is not about him. Putin cannot end this war because ending it threatens his survival. And Ukraine will not end this war on anyone else's terms because the alternative is national suicide. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us with a simple truth: Ukraine has already changed the strategic landscape. Not by liberating every village, that will happen in time, but by shifting the entire cost structure of the conflict. Ukraine is forcing Russia into a place where the mathematics stop working. The Kremlin now has to decide which it values more, the war or the economy that funds it. That choice is becoming harder every week, and this is why the sudden peace talk fever is rising. Not because peace is near, but because the pressure on Moscow is finally showing up in the numbers, in lost revenue, in damaged ports, in higher insurance rates, in the fear that the war is hollowing out the entire system. So let's be very clear: the real negotiations are not happening in Moscow, they are happening between the factions of the Kremlin, between the profit from oil and the cost of war, between Trump's fantasy and America's reality, between Ukraine's resilience and Russia's exhaustion. Kushner and Witkoff may enjoy their caviar. Let them. Let them take pictures on Red Square. Let the Kremlin parade them around for Fox News. None of that changes what is actually happening. This war will not end through a grand bargain. It will end when the cost of continuing becomes too high for the Kremlin to sustain. And right now, Ukraine is raising that cost faster than anyone in Moscow is ready to admit. Thanks for watching. If you find this analysis valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it. It helps bring clarity and sanity in a time when clarity and sanity are both in short supply. Stay safe, stay focused, and remember, pressure works, and Ukraine is applying it exactly where it counts. My name is Yuri Rashkin, and this is Rashkin Report Perspectives. Thanks for watching. Take care.